You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
All right, welcome back. We are in the top four now, or as it's more affectionately known, the semifinals of this Eternal Tournament Series Weekly Open. We've got two players that have already been featured today, but not featured against each other. We've got Kamado on this, I dare say, quite innovative armory list, just rolling through the tournament so far, but might get thwarted here by SMJ, who is on this popular Dark Praxis list.
Yeah, the armory list is pretty interesting. I'm just getting a look at it for the first time. I didn't get a chance to play against it, but it seems pretty solid. This is a deck that sacrifices the Rhino Artisans for extra threats in the form of Talon of Nostrix and Vanquish, running just 4 ofs all down the line. The idea behind it is that since you're running 3 Icarias at the top and you have threats to answer all of the stuff early, you just have a very, very solid control shell, and you don't care so much about buffing your weapons up above that 5 or 6 line because you have both Slay and Vanquish in the deck to deal with the larger threats. I think it's pretty solid. I'm looking forward to seeing it played.
Yeah, it's just overloads on the cheap weapons like Talon of Nostrix and Charging Flail, and overloads on the big answers like Vanquish and Slay. Just going to answer anything it runs into, and then eventually find a way to win via whatever Rise to the Challenge or Ikaria gives you. And yeah, that kind of straightforward, no-nonsense approach has been paying off thus far, and we'll see if it pays off here as we move into this match. The getting started now, and Kamado on the play with some power and a quarry. There we go.
Yeah, we have a pretty decent amount of stuff up for Kamado and SMJ. The quarries are definitely helping out. We see for SMJ, he's going to be able to pick out pretty much anything he needs, but both players are going to be spending the turn sort of digging up answers with that quarry.
Yep, quarries for quarries for quarries on both ends, but SMJ's got to be happy at least that it's got the power that they want to cast things. Grabs a reduced cost Shatter Mage, but has to pass up on a power. So crucially, SMJ still stuck on 3, but getting a 4-cost Shatterglass Mage against Armory is a nice place to be, and it gives you something to bring back your Dawn.
Yep, I'm a big fan of Shatterglass Mage against relic-based decks. It is true that it doesn't often get a lot of value against stuff like SMJ's deck, but here it looks like it's going to be able to, if he can play the power, both knock the Auric Runehammer off and also bring back the Dawnwalker, which is definitely the kind of value you want against Armory.
Yeah, it's unlikely that SMJ finds undepleted power here, and instead has to quarry and whiff more on power. He's got a hand of 3 torches and opts to just use one to take out this hammer before Kamado can buff it up with more armor just in case Kamado had a Throne Warden in hand.
Yep. Kamado has his Ikaria available, so he's mostly looking to draw power to get up to it. He can just hold off threats for days here with the Slays and the Vanquishes. He really doesn't play any small units, so the threat of a Copper Conduit with Recurring Predator's Instinct is not really a big one for him. The Throne Warden certainly represents maybe the only unit that could actually be bad to hit if he gets a giant Copper Conduit here. Otherwise, the Copper Conduit's just going to be bigger and bigger, and it's still going to be killed by Slay and Vanquish, and there's not going to be a bunch of leeway there.
Yeah, SMJ finally finds a 4th power, but it's via Seek power, so doesn't get to play another threat here, and now this 3/3 Copper Conduit's just chilling out, just saying hi to the Throne Warden that's across the way, and goes over to Kamado, who just inspires, finds more removal, quarries, finds probably more removal, and yeah, there's at least a buffed up Auric Runehammer.
Yeah, it's not a terrible thing to have, and with attacking for 4, that would pressure a bit of damage, although he's currently got armor to defend, so he decides against it.
Yeah, crucially here also, like, you can't cast the Auric Runehammer, but once it does, it might take out a unit, but then that'll give Shatterglass Mage something real nice to do. Of course, Kamado could just Harsh Rule here. We'll see what they opt for, as this Auric Runehammer can't deal with the 5/6. You could hammer and Vanquish. You've got a lot of options.
Yeah, I think Vanquish plus Auric Runehammer seems like a pretty solid play here.
Mm-hmm.
The big strength of SMJ's deck right now is these Dawnwalkers. They're always an extremely strong card against Armory decks, and because it's so hard for SMJ to actually get the damage across, it's going to be kind of an issue. I like this attack here. He's actually getting the 4 damage in with the Throne Warden, and he knows that the Auric Runehammer is safe, so he can just hold on to it and use it to kill something else next turn.
Yeah, the Auric Runehammer is relatively safe. Dawnwalker could have just gone in and been backed up by a torch, but SMJ opts to just cleanly, with the Shatterglass Mage and take out the weapon instead.
Yep. So Shatterglass Mage getting a decent amount of value, not bringing back a Dawnwalker today, but nonetheless being pretty powerful. And Kamado just choosing to push damage. Again, I like this sort of aggressive play. Kamado's deck is not the typical value armory that you want to see. What it actually does is it plays to push through with Ikaria and Relic Weapons and just get damage over and over again. There's no Smuggler's Stash, there's no Recano Artisans, there's no late game plan except for Ikaria. And Ikaria is definitely a finisher.
Yep, so SMJ trying to race here can get down another Dawnwalker, hold up some torches, or considering the Titan here. Currently, Titan's the only castable card that can get back these Dawnwalkers. He opted to not play the Dawnwalker last turn in combination with the torch, like we mentioned, but opts to do it this turn instead, and we'll see what Kamado brings to the table here.
We see a 1/5 Charchain Flail, pretty inverse to what you normally expect, and it gets double torched to get knocked off the board. So just a rough deal, and overall, like, we're just not seeing a lot of progress for Kamado in terms of damage.
Yep. So Kamado opting to not swing with these 4/4s and instead opting to block with them, which SMJ will immediately bring back these Dawnwalkers as he draws the 4th torch in his deck. I believe that's like the 4th torch we've seen from SMJ, or at least the 3rd. So that'll get the harsh rule out of Kamado trying to set up the Ikaria turn next turn.
Yeah. Kamado's in some trouble. The double Dawnwalkers are a really big deal. He needs another harsh rule here, and SMJ can just keep playing threats. So
yeah, unfortunately, SMJ not able to cast Carnosaur there, but at the same time, that's a good thing, as kind of wants to use Carnosaur on this Ikaria when it shows up, but Obliterate, not exactly what you're looking for either. It'll be able to take out a weapon at some point.
Both players 1 power card short of whatever it is they need to do. Kamado needs a red for his Ikaria, and SMJ is just looking for that Carnosaur, but Dark Return on Copper Conduit will do the trick.
Yeah, and Kamado opting to pass up on casting Ikaria just yet, and yeah, big old Copper Conduit coming down. The Dawnwalkers are back, and this is a real problem for Kamado. Armory-style decks have always had problems with Dawnwalker, and we can see why here. The harsh rules keep coming, the removal keeps coming, and the Dawnwalkers just keep coming back.
Yep, it's a big issue.
Ooh.
We see Carnosaur coming down, bringing back those Dawnwalkers again, and that means that Kamado has to spend another turn harsh ruling as opposed to playing Ikaria, which I'm sure he'd much rather be doing with that 6/6 Ikaria available. But if he does it this turn, he stays above Obliterate range, so SMJ has to draw yet another threat, and he has to draw it before the Ikarias kill him, and there are 2 of those in the mix.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty big win for Kamado there, finding another Ikaria and getting your opponent to use Predatory Carnosaur before you even played one down. So now SMJ can torch this Ikaria to pop the Aegis and obliterate it, but then he's going to be running out of reach to actually win this game. So Kamado might be able to close this out here.
Yeah, I think with SMJ actually spending the torch and obliterate here, he's probably lost the game. He may not know it yet, but the second Ikaria is in hand, which means that there's just no way that he deals with this threat before he's capable of before it's capable of just knocking across and beating him up. Sandstorm Titan doesn't do it. Vanquish just causes the Ikaria to float back up again. And once that happens,
the Predator's Instinct,
we do see a Predator's Instinct. Yeah, fair
that's
enough.
Key here. It costs it. Sandstorm Titan is big enough to kill Ikaria, so now it's on Kamado to find a big weapon and stay alive, or maybe another Ikaria. Although I don't know if Kamado has any Ikarias left in the list. I think we saw one go to the bin via a quarry.
Yeah, there are 3 of them, but if one's left in the void, then that means that Kamado has to close with some sort of relic weapon, and a Heart of the Vault actually seals the game. The value of those Dawnwalkers cannot be denied. At this point, there's just too much on the board. Kamado can draw a harsh rule, but that's about it, and that's not a good enough out for him.
Yeah, I mean, we saw there. Kamado went through 3 harsh rules, 3 vanquishes, multiple slays, multiple Ikarias, and still could not withstand the assault from these Dawnwalkers. Wow, what a showing from both decks.
Yeah, if he had been able to pick up the Warcry off of the Ikaria and it had been something valuable like an Auric Runehammer, he might have had a pretty decent chance at stabilizing against that board, but you also still need the Harsh Rule to push through. There just weren't enough cards available for him at the top, and unfortunately, those Dawnwalkers definitely got their value. There's no sideboarding this round, so no silences coming in, but we are going to see another round around the bend.
Yep. This will be game 2. SMJ taking that first one. Man, just haymakers all over the place, and we'll see if that's how this goes here. SMJ mulligans into a hand that's got Dawnwalker and a Shatterglass Mage. Sounds pretty nice to me.
Yep,
we'll see.
Power's picking up the shadows, so he's pretty capable of playing something on turn 3. And with the Dawnwalker, he's got a nice early advantage that's going to transition into a nice late game advantage.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, crucially, Kamado has 0 silences main deck. All the Valkyrie Enforcers are in the side. These Dawnwalkers, once they're here, they're here for life. Kamado's going to have to keep answering them, and as we saw, that is not an easy task.
Yeah, Kamado has Talon of Nostrix as an early pressure thing to essentially set up a little bit of damage, but it's going to go straight into the Dawnwalker if he uses it. This card is mostly dead for him. It doesn't do a lot except for kill Dawnwalkers.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty costly way to kill a Dawnwalker.
Yeah, it basically only kills Dawnwalker and Amber Acolyte. I certainly expect Talon of Nostrix to come out once we move to game 3. It's a very nice tool to have against the other aggro decks we saw largely early on in the bracket. We saw lots of Bartolo and Ricano decks, but certainly not at its best against them.
Yep, it's a pretty rough deal here, and Kamado taking 4 in his turn, or at least taking 2 back from the Talon of Nostrix into the Dawnwalker.
Yep, so SMJ pretty happy to just see the Dawnwalker even bad removal. It's still doing its job, getting him a little bit of damage, and he's just going to be looking for more threats. Got plenty of burn, has a Shatterglass Mage and a Dark Return, and again, a couple torches and a 0-cost one.
Yeah, the Shatterglass Mage's attack is rarely that valuable against Armory, but it's really good if a Throne Warden has just put armor on a weapon. Like, you just get a lot of extra health out of that. You essentially eat both the Throne Warden's ability and the actual weapon, and that can be a very serious tempo swing. So SMJ is doing pretty good to hold on to it here.
We see Kamado even passing up on a Talon of Nostrix for a free torch instead off of this quarry. In the meantime, Throne Warden comes in for the attack, and SMJ decides to throw a torch and Annihilate that way. Annihilate only can kill Throne Warden, no other targets in the entire deck, so might as well have it do what it does.
Yeah, he's got Torch Obliterate for Ikaria. He does have to worry about Ikaria coming down very shortly, so this is a pretty rough deal. Like, overall, the slower game favors Kamado with Ikarias, unless SMJ finds more Dawnwalkers to play.
Yeah, but crucially, if the Ikaria Warcry hits a weapon, no matter how big it is, a Shatterglass Mage can deal with it, and SMJ has the Torch into Obliterate to deal with Ikaria as well. So the first Ikaria is not exactly going to be a death knell here, but depending on if it hits another Ikaria, that could be a problem. If it hits a weapon, SMJ, depending on how this game plays out, has the tools to deal with it. Fortunately, he finds another Annihilate, which is definitely not what you want to see here.
Yeah, I think Kamado's probably in good shape to take this game if he plays Ikaria, which he actually does not. He's holding on to it for some reason.
Yeah, maybe with this harsh rule, he doesn't want to put anything on the board yet until SMJ does. But I don't know if I like that approach here.
Yeah, I think from what we're seeing, playing Ikaria is the best choice. Like, certainly knowing the contents of SMJ's hand, that kind of aggression is really helpful. Yeah. And since the only thing that you'd expect here is like Torch into Obliterate, yep, we do see the Ikaria come down. And yeah, that's an extra 5 health on something on top of your board. So looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was reasonable to wait one more turn again. Kamado doesn't have the luxury that we do of knowing exactly what's in his opponent's hand. But once they saw that SMJ did nothing on 6 available power, I think you know that they're at least low on gas in terms of threats, that this harsh rule might end up rotting in hand for a bit longer than thought it would anyway.
Yep. We've got Seat of Vengeance as the next draw. So Kamado needs to pick up the weapon that he's looking for. Certainly if SMJ manages to play anything down to bring back Dawnwalkers at this point, that'll help him out a lot. And he finds a second Dawnwalker. That's a pretty crucial turning point for this game.
Yeah, the other crucial thing here is SMJ wisely just sitting on this Shatterglass Mage. May opt to play it down because you have Dark Return. You could always bring it back later anyway. So again, if this Warcry 5 from Ikaria hits a weapon, SMJ is not going to have a problem dealing with it. It'll be interesting to see what else he plays out here, though, in the meantime.
Yeah, Kamado's still not picking up the Ikaria buff. At this point, SMJ's hand is really starting to rival Kamado's. Shatterglass Mage brings back the Dawnwalkers, gets the value out. You don't have to play it on a weapon to get the necessary value out of this hand. It just forces the harsh rule. Yeah. And if Kamado wants to play it Ikaria, there's a Predatory Carnosaur lying in wait for it. So basically, Kamado really just needs to find... Ikaria would work here just because it would be a 10-10. But whatever it is, he's got the work rise on. He's yet to draw it.
Yep, so that gets the harsh rules out from Kamado, only sitting on torches now and 12 power. And SMJ drops the Carnosaur, and there is the weapon with the buff, an Auric Runehammer. Certainly a nice card to have, but I imagine SMJ is going to clean that up easily with a Dark Return here. We'll see if Kamado opts to use these torches or if SMJ swings with the Dawnwalkers first. Yeah, there it is. Threatening to kill this hammer, gets the torch out of Kamado's hand, which both torches. So this is huge here. This Kamado is out of gas.
There is a case for Kamado using one of the torches, but I think overall, this is just going to close the game. Kamado needs Harsh Rule here. And if he draws 2, he's actually in pretty good shape. So a Quarry into a Harsh Rule might help him.
SMJ opting to play a Predatory Carnosaur there instead of Dark Returning the Shatterglass Mage to take out this Relic weapon. That is very surprising. I'm not sure what would prompt him to believe that that's the right line of play to take there. Like you just do 7 free damage by just replaying Shatterglass Mage.
From here, Kamado does not have outs. Flame Blast is just lethal, and unfortunately runs out of gas against the Dawnwalkers yet again.
Yep, Dawnwalkers have their day, and SMJ goes up 2-0 as we move into the sideboards here.
Yep, well, we're going to have to see if there's going to be a better setup in terms of the Armory deck's overall layout. There are 4 Valkyrie Enforcers in the side, and those are a card that he desperately needs with Rise to the Challenge. Soulfire Drakes and Ikaria are also in the side. We see Assembly Line, which is a card that you use if you want to defend your board. I think that's unlikely to come in, but Annihilate and Protect might be possible options as a way to defend your board and defend your weapons.
Yeah, Protect can be nice, especially against a deck playing Obliterate and Flame Blast, but it's just a question of can they make the cut here? Obviously, the Talon of Nostrix is probably going to get directly swapped for these 4 Valkyrie Enforcers. Then it's just a question of what else do you want to cut and what else do you want to bring in? The Torches don't really have that much to do in this matchup. Wouldn't be shocked to see those get the boot as well for some other options, like, as you mentioned, Annihilate, Protect, maybe even another Ikaria or Soulfire Drake just for more top-end threats somewhere. But looks like this challenge is out, and we'll have to see what SMJ did as well in the sideboard. I imagine just the extra Shatterglass Mages came in and not a whole lot of changes outside.
Yep, it seems like his opener looks decently strong. We've got Seed of Chaos, Seed of Impulse, and a Quarry to play. So as long as he finds a power to get those seats undepleted, he's going to be pretty well on curve. If not, he's going to have a little difficulty getting to 3 and to 4, but should be pretty smooth after that with the Amber Acolyte.
Yep. So in an ideal world, SMJ will be able to cast Quarry next turn, but if not, he'll get to cast his whole hand eventually, just a bit slower than they'd like. In the meantime, Kamado just doing what Kamado's deck does, right? Draw removal and draw Ikarias. We got a triple Slay, Torch, and Ikaria. So some Torches staying in, maybe not the full 4, we'll see. But obviously the Slays are still hanging around.
I don't know if Diogo Malaga is in fact the sideboard choice here, but it is a pretty strong one. It's not vanquishable. It deals damage directly to weapons, and it generates an ultimate that is just really hard for the Armory deck to deal with.
There are 2 Diogos in SMJ's main deck, none in the sideboard. So these just were in and will stay in as just, as you mentioned. Nice charging threat, can just take out weapons randomly and just good in every phase of the game in this one. Crucially, against an Armory deck that's not playing Artisans to make their hammers 5-1 or 5-2 consistently, it's going to be out of the range of a lot of moves.
Yep, pretty tricky to deal with. Of course, Kamado has 4 slays, so he's not worried about any sort of unit that has sticky, evasive type abilities. Like being hybrid, being too tough, none of that really matters in the face of Slay.
Right, but Diogo will still get in for 3 damage here, and we do see an Annihilate come out on a 2-1 just to stop the pressure a bit here. Kamado did bring in the Soulfire Drake, which got a little buff there from an Inspire early on. But Kamado not on 5 power, not on triple fire influence either. And it's just going to have to rely on these slays to buy him some time.
Yep. There's an interesting thing going on here with these Soulfire Drakes. They're essentially burn spells, but also like they only give charge and flying to units in this deck, and the only units in this deck are Karya the Liberators. So Soulfire Drake is still a lot of aggression, but it is a tricky card unless he's picking up the Throne Wardens.
Yeah, it can also give Throne Wardens flying, which is a nice boon. But yeah, it's mostly here is just another way to finish this game. Praxis is pretty weak to flyers. Their only clean answer is, Sandstorm Titan or using things like Obliterate and Predatory Carnosaur on them, and that means they have less for Ikaria. So it works out in that sense. But in the meantime, SMJ just dropping Hearts of the Vault, drawing more cards, getting more removal out of Kamado, and just keep getting 2-for-1s, right? This is what it's all about here. Just grinding this Armory deck into a pulp.
Yep, the Heart of the Vaults are certainly very helpful. They're keeping Kamado low on health. They're keeping SMJ high on threats. And eventually there's going to be less slays in the deck. So taking a swing with Diogo in the hopes that Diogo can live to see yet another turn, and we get to see some more 6 shreds.
Yep, so Diogo chipping away. SMJ's got a Torch, a Flail, and a Flame Blast in hand. So every point of damage really counts here. But Kamado, if he can stabilize, SMJ's kind of running out of threats here. It's just he has a million burn spells, picking up this Obliterate as well. When Kamado does turn this around, he's going to have to turn around real fast.
Yeah, I think SMJ's got Kamado dead to rights here.
Yeah.
With the Flame Blast and the Charchain Flail, that's so much damage, and it's not like Kamado is generating a lot of board presence.
Yeah. Jeez.
There's
Dark Return on a
Heart
of the Vault, getting a 0-cost quarry. This is just Kamado's at 13 right now, stuck on this 5 power, and SMJ's just got to count up the damage at this point, really. Even as 9 damage Charchain Flail 2 on an empty board. This is not looking good for Kamado here.
Yeah, if he'd drawn a Torch, then he might have lived. Basically, just being able to get rid of the damage on the Charchain Flail was the most important thing. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen, and now there's a Obliterate and Flame Blast, and that's the game.
Yep, good run for for Kamado there. Also, very good run for SMJ. But Kamado finally runs into one of these big, nasty, grindy mid-range lists and just gets put through the ringer with it. SMJ just getting the 3-0 sweep in this series. Very convincing fashion. But hats off to Kamado. Gets the top 4 placement. SMJ gets to move on to the finals here.
Indeed. Strong performance from both players. And we'll look forward to seeing SMJ in the finals.
Yeah, I've not gotten an update yet on the other match that's going on. I believe, Casey Nabrev and Manilojo. That match is over. Casey Nabrev takes it 3-1. Casey Nabrev being on Praxis midrange. So we've got a Heart of the Vault showdown here in the finals. Lots of warp cards and card draw and burn spells will be thrown at each other when we get back in the very next round quite shortly here.
See you guys then.